Hello, 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 and welcome back to Likeable Leaders here on LinkedIn. We're also streaming on Facebook and YouTube. I'm your host for the day, Dave Kirkman, and I'm delighted to welcome our guests for today's episode. I will do that in just a moment, but first, I want to ask you, as always, to comment, post in the chat, let me know where you're from, let me know how you're doing today, let me know where you're watching from today, and of course, let me know if you have any comments or questions for me or my guest. And if you are one of the lucky people chosen, you will win a copy of my guest's book, which is really exciting. My guest, of course, is Luvvie Ajayi Jones, and her first book is called I'm Judging You, the Do Better Manual. And you could win a copy of the book, and all you need to do is post in the comments right there. Post, post, post. We're going to give away at least 3 winners in the next 20 minutes, and it could be you. The only way to win is to post a comment. Without further ado, I am truly delighted to welcome my guest to today's episode of Likeable Leaders. As I mentioned, Luvvie Ajayi Jones is the New York Times bestselling author of I'm Judging You. She is an entrepreneur. She is a world-renowned keynote speaker, TED talker, self-described troublemaker, and proud to say client and friend. Luvvie, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Glad to be here.
So, 2020, I don't even know where to start. It's because normally we ask guests about leadership and we talk about being a leader. And, a couple months ago, I started saying, well, we can't possibly have this conversation without talking about the global pandemic and the impact of the global pandemic on leadership and business.
Yeah.
Just when I thought it couldn't get worse and crazier, now we have the protests and the Black Lives Matter movement finally getting what I would say is hopefully some really significant momentum at a time where, George Floyd became the latest in just a, as I described it in the article that I wrote, a really embarrassingly long list of names of people that we have lost to racism and police brutality. And this climate that we're in right now, how do you even, whether you're a white person watching or a person of color, what would you say to folks in terms of how they can embrace the movement, how they can, should they be speaking up? Should they be staying silent? Should they be taking a position? Does it depend on how big your company is? I mean, if you're a leader watching, I think many people are very overwhelmed. I hope and trust that people are truly like wanting to help. I mean, I'm really an optimist, but at the same time, I recognize that a lot of people are scared and fear holds a lot of people back. Risk of this like enormous, obviously, I don't want to put the weight of the world on you, but what would you say to somebody that's struggling with, what to do right now?
I think right now, everybody needs to do something. Everybody's roles are different because what George Floyd's death being videoed and being amplified around the web did was it gave a visual representation of what racism looks like at its worst. A man who was handcuffed, dying because a cop put a knee in his neck until he suffocated. And it really charged people up because you can't watch the video and not deny that what happened there was real injustice. But it was based in white supremacy and racism, and it's lit up the world. Like, I don't think we've ever seen protests happening around the globe at this scope for this long. It's been about 8 days, sustained protests and uprisings. And a lot of people have been like, some of it has gotten violent. And a lot of people complain more about the uprisings getting violent than what led to frustration that can get to that point. Black people in the United States have, for centuries, dealt with racism, both the overt and the covert. So we saw George Floyd's murder, and for us, that was the, oh my God, that is what it looks like at its worst. But that's not the only form that racism takes. So I think right now, everybody has to figure out what their role is. One, in understanding what their privilege is, confronting that and using that for the greater good. You know, Dave, today you're using your privilege as somebody who has this massive platform on LinkedIn by having me on. So when we talk about people making and doing their own part, it looks like that for you, right? For somebody else, it might look like making sure that the intern who is overlooked, even though they do really hard work, is told like, this is actually somebody who I'm gonna affirm and maybe mentor. It might look like definitely speaking up on your Facebook, on your LinkedIn, on your Instagram, that Black Lives Matter, or by just saying, you know what, we have to do something about what's happening in the world. We have to do something about what's happening around injustice against Black people, people of color, anybody who's marginalized. So everyone has to figure out what their role is and do it well and do it often. If we do that, everyone is not supposed to be doing everything, right? Don't feel pressure because you can't do this one thing. Well, are you doing something else? If you are, then you're doing something. I think right now everyone needs to challenge themselves to get out their comfort zone, to have the conversations that they haven't had in the past, to take time to learn what their role is right now and do it.
I love that. Do something. You don't have to do everything, but do something. And for me, I mean, I'm really embarrassed to say that, like, I always thought, hey, I'm not a racist, and that's like enough. And, I sat there and I watched that video, and for me, it was a turning point. And I was like, this. And then, of course, in terms of white privilege, I'm like, I'm watching this video. I'm just in my seat that I'm in right now, in my office here at home. And I'm watching the video, and I cried. I'm emotional. I cried, I almost cried a moment ago, but I cried. And then of course, later I realized, like, okay, isn't this the essence of white privilege? I'm sitting here in a huge suburban house in the safety with businesses and money and everything, safety. And I'm sitting here crying and feeling, but like, that's not my everyday experience of being afraid and thinking that could happen to me. And it just, a light bulb finally went off for me, where I think I finally realized, wow, I get the difference, and let me learn about anti-racism and let me figure out how I can do something.
Yes, I want to really give that some space, because I think that's really important. A lot of people feel like because they're not contributing to the harm that they're okay. And I really want to implore people that for us to leave the world better than we found it, we actually have to take action to use whatever privilege we have and whatever majority group that we're a part of, to make sure that whatever group is marginalized by our majority group is actually being helped. So me, as a straight person, I can't stand around and say, well, somebody made a homophobic joke, but because I wasn't the one that made it, I'm okay. If it happens in my presence, it is my responsibility to be like, that's not okay, to call it out. So I love that you admitted that vulnerability. That's important. And I think that's a starting point. That's a great starting point. A lot of people haven't gotten there. Some people just think, oh, because I'm not racist, I'm okay. It's what are you doing to be anti-racist? And it's for taking concrete actions. So in whatever part of our lives that we are in whatever majority group that we are, if we're Christian, if we're straight, if we're, cisgender, we have to make it safe for the people who are not of that majority group. So the work just begins with us understanding that and actively caring. And then the next thing after that is like, okay, so what can I do with whatever power I have to make the world safer for whoever does not look like me or believe in what I believe in or love who I love?
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. I have my first winner, so I want to congratulate Trudy Morton from Charlotte, North Carolina. Trudy Morton, you are going home with I'm Judging You. I love that you have the book right there, by the way. I love that. The Do Better Manual. Speaking of that, talk to me a little bit about the book. What are a couple key takeaways? And I guess especially, and if the answer might be, well, not as much this or this, but especially, I guess, in the context of these two like enormous lenses that we now all have, right? Between COVID-19, the pandemic, the economic impact of that, and then the civil unrest around the Black Lives Matter movement, and really thinking how we can truly once and for all create more equality. With each of those or either of those lenses, what's a takeaway that folks can look forward to when they read I'm Judging You?
Yeah, so my book is called I'm Judging You, the Do Better Manual, because I think we need to do better as people. We need to figure out what we can do to make this world better than we found it. And I'm judging I'm judging myself in the process too. Um, One of the points that I make in the book and I talk through in the culture section is the point that I've made of like understanding what our privileges are. And it's not a constant, it's not calling you lazy. It's just knowing what the thing that you walk with that you might not have earned, right? Just because like I didn't earn being straight. So how can I use that for the greater good? And honestly, it's also for us not to take ourselves so seriously, because I turn the mirror on the world and I talk about why Facebook is my favorite soap opera. Because there's always people whose whole relationship lives plays out on Facebook, and you always like, why do they continue to do this? But I'm so fascinated by it. Yeah, so the book it's gonna make you laugh, it's gonna make you think. And for me, I'm proud of the fact that 3.5 years later, I still get tagged to it on social media every day of somebody new who's rediscovering the book.
Yeah, that's got to be an amazing feeling. In fact, before I even met you, my wife had, I think, interviewed you for either one of her books or
Perfect.
her podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she said to me, "You're gonna love her. She's so entertaining. She's so funny." And I think that that's actually really, really valuable, because it's like this stuff can be like really overwhelming and heavy. I mean, this is heavy, heavy stuff that we're all going through. 2020 is like, I mean, it's definitely the worst year, like globally speaking, that of my life. I mean,
Right.
it's an absolute nightmare. So the fact that you can make people think while also making them laugh, I think that is no small accomplishment. I think that is truly, truly amazing.
Thank you. I think humor is just a great equalizer. You make people laugh, you get their defenses down, and while they're listening and open, you make them think. And I think that's how I've approached my content since I started blogging online 17 years ago. It's just I talk and write in very similar ways. Like I want people to read my words and feel like their best friend is talking to them. So I think it makes it really helpful in getting people to relate to what I'm saying, to understand the big concepts or the small ones in however way I presented it. Because I think we have to find common ground in the world, and humor helps you find common ground.
Love it. If you have questions, if you're watching right now live and you have questions
Yes.
for Luvvie, post
That's
your questions. I'm going to try to get to a couple questions for you. And of course, every time you post a question, you also enter to win a copy of Luvvie's book. We've gotten some great feedback. Mohammed wants to know if the book is available in Egypt. And you may not even know. I know that I don't necessarily always know where my books are available. Do you know offhand, Luvvie?
I know Barnes and Nobles and Amazon sends it globally, so you might have to order from one of those places. I would love for it to be available on the continent of Africa because I'm Nigerian. So I think it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but my second book, which is coming next year, called The Fear Fighter Manual, will be available on the continent, which I'm really excited about.
Nice. Okay. Well, you mentioned it. Tell me a little bit more about the Fear Fighter Manual. I love it already.
Yeah, so I'm writing a book called The Fear Fighter Manual that's all about what happens if we understand that we're never going to stop being scared of big things, difficult things, new things, and just knowing that, okay, accepting that the fear will be there, but doing it anyway. Because that's the testament of my career, that's the testament of myself. Who I am today is because I keep doing things that are scary to me, but they've rewarded me tremendously. So that's the next book. And I'm really excited because I think it is the book that I need now in the moments when I want to say something that feels bold. It's the book that I needed 10 years ago when I was afraid to call myself a writer. And it's a book that I want to serve as people's "you got this" in book form.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I am a huge fan of courage as embracing fear and doing it anyway. And I think there's a lot of work out there and people out there that use the word fearless. And I think they have the best of intentions, but from my perspective, like it's basically impossible to be fearless. Like there's the world is a scary place. Like there's a lot of fear out there. And to me, it's more about, okay, it's okay to be afraid, but what can we then do with it, harness it, move forward, even in the face of
Exactly. Agreed. I firmly believe when I say I am being fearless, it does not mean I'm without fear. I'm just not gonna do less just because I'm afraid, right? Like I'm just not gonna do less because that thing feels too big.
Yep.
Because it's like you have to constantly grow. And to grow, you're gonna have to do the thing that feels too big, the thing that feels scary. It's important that we do not let fear stop us from doing what matters.
Love it. We have 2 more books to give away. I'm going to give away the next book to somebody that posts the likable leadership quality that resonates with them the most. So Sam, can we pull up that pyramid? And we're going to talk, as we do on every episode of Likable Leadership, about the qualities of what makes a likable leader.
Yes.
Sam, my trusted apprentice, is here. Thank you so much, Sam. So I'm going to ask Luvvie, I'm going to ask you in a moment to share which resonates with you the most. In the meantime, I'm going to review them for you guys, the audience, and I'm going to ask you guys to post which of these resonates the most with you as a leader, especially in light of the lenses that I've shared and what 2020 is bringing us as a planet. Listening, storytelling, passion, teamwork, surprise and delight, responsiveness, simplicity, authenticity, transparency, adaptability, and gratefulness. Which resonates the most with you? I'm going to choose a winner in a moment, but first, Luvvie, which of these speaks the most to you as a leader?
Absolutely, authenticity and transparency. I think it's really important to share our journeys and be real about it, demystify, the good and the bad, because oftentimes people see where we are, but they don't know how we got there. They don't know the journey. They don't know that, what it is to run a company. You make it look seamless, Dave. Meanwhile, there's probably all types of things in the background that are making it run. So I think people need authenticity in a leader, because if I don't find you to be authentic, I can't follow you.
I love that. And, I think there's so many leaders that have been nervous to embrace transparency and authenticity. But in this new world that we live in, where social media travels at the speed of light, I just feel like people are going to find out, right? So it's best to embrace this. So I'm delighted to hear. You mention that. I'm going to go with Daniel Hall. Daniel Hall, who posted authenticity himself, although he said it's about finding the balance of all of them. So interesting point, Daniel. And Daniel Hall, you are the latest winner of I'm Judging You, the Do Better Manual by Luvvie Ajayi Jones. The Jones is fairly recent, right? I mean, you were married in how long ago now?
8 months ago. I got married in end of September of 2019.
Fantastic! Congratulations! And
Thank you.
You're so out there, right? Like me, you've really embraced like social media and the internet, etc. Is your husband less out there? I'm guessing he has to be at least a little less out there than you.
So like he's so much less. He's not out here at all. Like not at all. I am the public facing one in this relationship, and I think that's healthy for us right now.
Yep, totally. All right, so we are just about out of time. I'm going to see if anyone has any other questions for you. Sam, can you unshare that? Thank you. He's ahead of me. Very nice. I'm going to share. I'm going to see if there are any more questions for our guest. And I'm going to give away one more book as the grand prize in just a moment. Some people sharing some of the likable traits that they thought: adaptability, listening, passion. Olivier is representing Africa. Thank you for the shout out to Africa. Karmika is here. Mohammed is here. One of the things I love about LinkedIn, Luvvie, is the global audience. You get people really tuned in from all over the world, which is just awesome. A lot of people really thanking you for the comments that you said earlier. So this is an interesting question. Somebody asked about seeing color. Shouldn't you not see color? And I've heard that before. I have an answer before but rather than share my answer, you're my guest. What would you say to somebody that says, shouldn't you not see color and, sort of be colorblind?
No, you should never be colorblind. You should see color. Absolutely see color. The problem is that when people see color, they make judgments based on the color. I want you to see my color because I'm proud of it. It comes with a lot of things. My culture, it really is important to me for people to see me in my fullness. What when people say I'm colorblind, that means you're dismissing somebody's whole culture, this part of them that's really important. The problem is when people see color and make negative judgment based on it. And that's what people do. So I don't actually think people should say, I don't see color. You absolutely do. Kids see color.
Right.
Everybody sees color. What we need to teach everybody is see color and honor it. Don't dismiss it. Don't reduce it. Don't insult it. Don't abuse it. Honor it. So I see you're different from me from what we look like, and that's okay. We celebrate our differences. We don't abuse each other because of it. That's the goal.
Totally. You know, I'm reminded of the other day, I'm watching, my wife and I had our 5-year-old watch the Sesame Street CNN special on anti-racism. It was really good, I thought. And Seth, he's 5 years old. And the thing is, it's all about teaching our kids, right? Because they don't know. He said to me, he looks up at me and my wife, and he goes, Daddy, do I have black skin? And I said, I sort of chuckled at first, and I was like, well, no. But, you know, the thing is, actually, like, nobody has black skin. Like, you know, there's different shades of brown and beige and sort of reddish. And, you know, I like the orange myself. But I was like, but the thing is, you know, it's to understand that, yes, we're all different, but we're all equal, you know, and to treat everyone with kindness and respect.
Yes.
And of course, he was like, of course. Like, as a 5-year-old, once you have that conversation, like, of course, that makes sense as the default. And yet, obviously, somewhere along the way, many of us are taught otherwise. And then that becomes, you know, a real problem that we're dealing with today.
Yeah, because Seth could go to school and then one of his classmates might think opposite. And then he'll probably come home and be like, so this was weird. But again, it comes down to parents. It comes down to home, like being able to tell your kids, listen, yes, that person has a different color skin from you, but that does not mean you treat them any different. That's what's important to teach children and anybody else.
We are out of time, but I am so delighted that you were able to join us today, Luvvie. If y'all did not win a copy of her book, please do check out I'm Judging You, the Do Better Manual by Luvvie Ajayi Jones. Stay tuned. You can follow her on social media, and stay tuned for her next book. I personally can't wait for it myself. And my grand prize winner, well, first of all, thank you so much, Luvvie, for joining us. Thank you to Aaron
Thanks for having me.
For the Apprentice team. My pleasure. And thanks most of all to all of you guys, our viewers, for watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you sharing this. If you got something out of it, share it with your network on LinkedIn or wherever it is you're watching. And my grand prize winner is Sandy Prentice, who pointed out to watch When They See Us. We have to see color, honor it, and respect it. I couldn't agree with you more. Congratulations, Sandy. We're going to get one of Luvvie's books out to you. And until next time, everyone, have a super likable rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Dave. That was awesome.